So I guess we can begin. I guess recognize Town Councilor Lisa Feltner's here. And I guess maybe as for the bike ped, maybe I'll just say names and people can raise their hand or say hi. So we have Laura Weiner. Everybody knows Laura. Jesse Hammond. Sheila Fay. Maria Saiz and Janet Jameson is here for the bike ped. So I want to jump to minutes. I don't think we got minutes, so I think we can defer that to the.
Do we want to introduce the others?
Yeah, can we please introduce the others just so that I can get their names for the minutes?
I was going to get there. I just wanted to get the minutes out of the way because we don't have to do them. And then I was going to say, okay, now we go on to the Galen Street. We should probably, I guess, meet. Well, I guess first the Commission on Disability is here. So I'm not quite sure. Kim, I guess, do you want to play point on introducing people?
Sure. Thank you very much. And I want to thank all of you for allowing the Commission on Disability to join your meeting this evening and to hear some of the presentations. We're also interested in many of the same issues that you were interested in, and I hope this is an opportunity and a beginning for us to have a closer collaboration. So I am the chair, I'm Kim Charlson, and I'm the chair of the Commission on Disability, and vice chair is John Hawes. And our town council liaison is Lisa Feltner. And I think we're the three people here, unless someone else joined that I'm not aware of. So thank you again.
Right, thank you for being here. So now I guess on to Boston Development Group. And I guess, Bob, are you the point
Sure,
person?
my name is Bob Doherty. I am a partner of Boston Development Group and a partner in the 66 Galen Street redevelopment initiative. And I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves.
So my name is Jeffrey Dirk. I'm a managing partner with Vanessa and Associates, and we're the transportation consultants for the project.
And my name's Tim Talon. I'm with Elkis Manfredi Architects. We're the architects for the project.
Hello.
Okay. So I think I should probably turn it over to you, Bob, for.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a presentation, and we'll, if you'd like us to get right into it. I know that I think Tim is going to share the screen, and we can kind of give you an overview of the project with respect to transportation and bike and petty access, and why we think it's a significant improvement over the existing conditions or the present conditions that exist today. So I'm going to let Tim kind of walk through it, and if at any time during the presentation there are questions, just feel free. We want this to be not some just stayed us giving information, but I think to make it as productive as possible, we'd like to hear from you folks. If any questions arise, with respect to the traffic or to pedestrian or bike access, just fire away, and Jeff or Tim or myself will try to answer the questions.
Sure. Thanks, Bob. And thanks for having us tonight. Look forward to discussing this with you and walking through the project. And like Bob said, please feel free to jump in at any point in time for any clarifications or any questions or comments. So up on the screen now is an overall site plan. On the left side of the screen, Watertown Square, and of course the Charles River, Nonantum Road. North is towards the left side of the screen, just to orient yourselves. And then Galen Street, which connects down to 90. This here is the project site. Today it's the location of Colonial Audio or the former Colonial Auto, Valvoline, a couple other auto-oriented uses. And today, I think the site is something like 92% asphalt. And we're looking at a project that includes a number of transportation improvements in the area, reconfiguring streets, perhaps most notably improvements to the pedestrian realm on sidewalks on all sides. Along Galen Street today, I think the sidewalk is something like 5 or 5'6" wide from the curb to back of sidewalk. And when we started this project, we started looking at the town's goals for the area, the comprehensive plan, the strategic plan for economic development. Really, the comprehensive plan laid out some of the broader goals and for economic development in the area, the creation of an iconic gateway into the town. But two that were particularly important were connectivity, improving connectivity from south of Watertown Square to Watertown Square, improving connectivity to the river, and then also creating a more comfortable pedestrian environment here on all sides of the project. So like I mentioned, the sidewalk along Galen Street today is pretty narrow. Along Water Street, it's pretty much non-existent. So overall, just in summary, we have been working with both the town, with the MBTA as well, to design the project so we can accommodate buses in a new way. One of the challenges in this site and really one of the traffic challenges here is that buses currently enter into the MBTA, and this is the MBTA's bus yard here. Buses enter in to their site here, they drop off and pick up here, and then exit back out right next to the Galen-Nonantum intersection. They have their own phase on this signal and then come out. The result of that is some really wide curb cuts along this portion, a not so friendly environment for passengers here. This is 2 curb cuts. There's the existing Water Street right about here. I think there's something like 7 or 8 large curb cuts along Galen Street today. And so we're closing up all of those. The northern leg of Water Street reconfigured. I'm sorry, was there a question? So the northern leg of Water Street is being reconfigured. We're adding a new leg of Water Street here to create a new 4-way intersection at Aldrich Road and Galen Street. And Jeff will talk a little more about how all these streets work. But just overall, in summary, there's a new bus lane proposed on the east side of Galen Street. So northbound buses will enter into a bus lane right about here at the southern end of the project. Continue through this new signalized intersection, drop off on this side of a new neighborhood park, swing around and pick up on this side. They'll then enter into the existing bus yard if they are laying over, and then come back out this intersection. So the project includes a new 4-story lab building and 2 new publicly accessible open spaces, as well as the new sidewalks on all sides. The neighborhood park, we've been through a couple of design iterations, and really now the design's being driven by the desire to really provide for an improved experience for pickup and drop off for bus passengers, but also act as an oasis in the neighborhood with a large central lawn and tree plantings around the perimeter of it. So buffering it, buffering the center space from the surrounding streets. Along Galen Street, we've set back the building from the property line to create, I think the dimension's about 15 foot 6 inches from the curb to the face of building. So we have a comfortable planting zone along the curb, 4 feet wide, pedestrian zone in board of that, and then the furnishing zone at the building. Along the southern edge, there is some planting along the building as well. One of the most, and I'll just mention one more thing and maybe go to, actually, I think I'll come back to this one. But just to describe the plan overall, One of the most notable features of this site is Galen Street slopes down pretty significantly from the southern end to the northern end of the site. So up here, we're around elevation 37, Water Street's at elevation 10. So this new public space will connect Water Street down at elevation 10 and Galen Street above. And it's designed to be a destination in itself. It comes out to Water Street and creates that inviting connection through, but then also provides the ability to connect from Water Street to Galen Street with a fully accessible path through the open space.
And Tim, that space, space that you're referring to, that is also designed, that kind of meandering, for ADA, because of the slope from 37 to 10, be tough to just go straight downhill. So this is kind of a circuitous way to get to Water Street, but it's also interspersed with direct kind of staircases down to Water Street.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So maybe, I guess just overall, an overall circulation diagram. And this has been continuing to evolve with the updated layouts, but just showing different pedestrian, bicycle, bus, and automobile routes. Automobile entrance is on Water Street. There's no curb cuts along the Galen Street frontage here. So vehicles will use the new Water Street to access that. Bicycles will have the ability to, coming down Water Street northbound, continue on the northern leg of Water Street and then connect to the river here. Southbound bicyclists would come down Galen Street and make the left on New Water Street to access the project. And we have a large indoor bike parking room that is right along the facade of the building. So it's going to be well lit. It's not below grade. We really see it as an opportunity to activate street level on the building on the north side, on the front of the building. So we have a separate entrance for bike parking that'll have its own bike repair area. We're planning it for spaces, not just traditionally sized bikes, but we'll have spaces for cargo bikes as well, for those that may use that. And then showers and locker area in the bike parking space.
Well, Tim, what is that? It's about 45 spaces for bikes, correct?
Yes.
Indoors.
Yeah, all indoor. And we're still working on the number of short-term spaces that will provide outdoors. Most recently, we're looking at 12 racks throughout the site, providing the capacity for 24 bikes around the site. We're also providing a blue bikes station on site. The location of that is still being worked out. We've looked at a couple alternatives, one on this side of the building adjacent to the bike parking, which was not necessarily as visible to the public. We looked at options in the neighborhood park, and most recently we're looking at options for locating the blue bike station here in a new open space that would be created here.
Which really is an area that would be given up by surrendered by the T. They'd be closing up their ingress and their existing ingress and egress at that point. And our hope is to continue that green area along the two areas, the ingress and egress points, and put the blue bikes there where they'll be highly visible. I think, Tim, you could show it right there. Yeah, that's where they come in and out today. And really the genesis of this whole thing was, the buses were having a hard time making the turn radius. And you've got a light, you've got heavy traffic, and then you've got a turn radius. It's very difficult for the buses to make. Sometimes they kind of cross the center line, if you will, coming out to go towards Watertown Square, and that can cause bottlenecks. So, we're, believe strongly that by closing those up and rerouting the buses, and I'll let Jeff speak, he's more of an expert, but having them come out on the newly constructed Water Street at a signalized light takes pressure off the light helps the buses, and it's just better for everybody. It's a better pedestrian, because now we've eliminated 7 curb cuts. It's just a better, safer kind of environment. And if I'm missing something, Jeff, by all means, just tell me to shut up and I will.
Yeah, so I think I can turn it over to Jeff to talk more about transportation improvements. Jeff, just let me know if you want me to flip back to any of the earlier images.
Okay, sure, Tim. And is the next slide the detail of the intersection design?
No, we don't.
No,
actually-
okay, that's all right. So I will, I'll have you go back to the first one probably after we get through this. So, so we prepared a detailed transportation impact assessment for the project, and I won't go through, you know, all of it, but I think probably the most important parts of this is specifically focusing on pedestrians and bicycles. As you're probably very well aware, the town is very focused on reducing the amount of automobile trips that are generated by any project in the community. And the way that that's achieved is a commitment from the developer to implement a transportation demand management program. And not only implement it, but we're required to measure against defined goals. And I think that's a key thing that, you know, very often is missing from these commitments to reducing traffic. And so for this project, the requirement of the goal that we're trying to achieve is no more than 60% of the employees at this site are to use are to arrive by a single occupant vehicle. And so we have a very aggressive transportation demand management program that is designed to achieve that goal. So we'll talk about those offsite infrastructure improvements that Tim was mentioning, which are required in order for this transportation demand management program to be effective. But this developer and Bob and Boston Development Group have committed to a substantial financial package that will encourage the employees. Essentially, it results in no out-of-pocket cost for an employee that wants to walk, bike, or use public transportation. And that's a significant benefit that removes obstacles for a number of employees to use these modes. And I'll just mention, it's fully subsidizing transit passes to the site. So if you want to use an MBTA bus to get here, you're receiving a monthly benefit that's equal to the cost of riding that bus. So again, no out-of-pocket cost. If you want to use blue bikes or commute to work using a bicycle mode of transportation, the package includes providing a monthly blue bike pass. So again, no out-of-pocket cost for that. If you have your own bike and you're commuting to the site, and Tim had talked about the bicycle accommodations we're providing, you will still get a stipend that's equal to that blue bike membership that you can use for bicycle repairs or any bicycle related
Maintenance.
the shoes, maintenance of the bike, things like that you can use for that. If you walk to the site or use any of those other modes, the project will provide an emergency ride home program. So if you walk to the site and you need to leave, or you bike or you use public transportation and you need to leave the site for any reason during the day for a family emergency or whatever it happens to be, there's no cost for you to use Uber, Lyft, or use a taxi to get home. So all of that is really around trying to achieve that no more than 60% of users of this site arriving by a private automobile. So we start kind of at the site and the way it's managed by providing or removing any impediments for an employee to use these alternative modes. And then we get to, now we need to build an infrastructure that connects to what's available and approves what's available in the area. Tim, so now I guess if you want to slip back to the first slide, probably.
Okay.
Perfect. So now we're going to build upon the infrastructure that exists out there today. And as Tim had mentioned, one of the major goals that we have is connecting the Aldrich Road neighborhood area to the infrastructure for peds and bikes that exist along the Charles River. So the Nonantum Road infrastructure, and then connecting northerly over to Watertown Square. So the way that we're achieving that, starting on the neighborhood side, is we're designing a new intersection that includes a traffic signal. And that traffic signal, as you can see, includes crosswalks across all legs of the intersection and ADA compliant wheelchair ramps on all quarters of the intersection, so that we're providing that connectivity and that pedestrians and bicycles that arrive at this intersection. For a pedestrian, you have push buttons and signal indications and phasing to cross the intersection. Essentially, the only thing moving when the pedestrian pushes the push button are pedestrians. All of the traffic is stopped and no turn on red at the intersection. If you're a bicyclist and you arrive at the intersection, the signal system will detect a bicycle and will call a green light for the bicycle, similar to the way that it would call a green light for a car. Bicyclists will also have the ability to cross within the crosswalks and walk across the intersection. So that connectivity gets us from the neighborhood across over into Water Street. Along Water Street itself, Tim had mentioned we have ADA compliant sidewalks that will exist in that area. And then for bicyclists, we're providing at this point on-road bicycle accommodations along Water Street to get you down to Nonantum Road. For the pedestrians that are walking along Water Street, as Tim had mentioned, we're providing a new sidewalk along the project frontage. We will be also looking at the existing sidewalk beyond the project frontage to make sure that it's fully ADA compliant, to be able to have pedestrians walk along the, we'll call it the west side or the southwest side, to get down to Nonantum Road at Water Street. And then at the Nonantum Water Street intersection, we'll be rebuilding the wheelchair ramps over to where the existing crosswalk is. That, yeah, keep going. That, yeah, exactly, Tim, sorry about that. Rebuilding the sidewalk and the wheelchair ramps at that location, and then reconstructing that crosswalk. And we're in discussions right now with the Department of Conservation and Recreation to install a rectangular rapid flashing beacon at that location. So you'll have positive traffic control at that location. So you push a button, the flashing yellow lights will work for you to be able to cross there. We did look at opportunities to provide, if you're familiar with the Hawk beacon. So the Hawk beacon is basically a positive traffic control in that if at some point it displays a solid red light on Nonantum Road to stop the traffic. However, you have to meet certain volume thresholds for pedestrians and bikes using that crossing. At this point, those volumes aren't there, but that would be something that's monitored in the future to see if it would rise to that level. It certainly justifies and is warranted to have the rectangular rapid flashing beacon. So we're having the conversations with the Department of Conservation and Recreation right now on upgrading the wheelchair ramps that are there so that they'll accommodate peds and bikes, and then installing that rectangular rapid flashing beacon. In the future, there are opportunities when the MBTA looks at potentially redeveloping their property to allow for the construction of a sidewalk and a shared use path along that side of Water Street. And so the road has actually been designed to allow for that to take place. And that would provide a fully off-road facility at that time. However, at this point, the MBTA owns all of that property on that side. They do have plans to introduce that shared use path potentially in the future, but not at this time. So we're accommodating bikes on an on-road accommodations at this point. So now as you proceed down Water Street and you come to the, I guess, Tim, where we've got the right turn only or the right in, right out. So at that location, a little further down, Tim. So yes, exactly. At that intersection there, we're accommodating pedestrians by way of the sidewalks that you see there. As Tim had mentioned, we do have a bike lane or bus lane, I'm sorry, that exists along Galen Street that we'll be constructing. The bus lane along Galen Street will be a shared bus bike lane. So bicyclists will have the ability to use that extra lane as well. Then when they come down to this intersection, they'll transition to an off-road facility. So this will be a shared use path at that location there. I think what's significant in terms of where Tim is showing the cursor right now, he mentioned the elimination of all these driveways. That is a significant safety improvement for both pedestrians and bicycles because it's eliminating these conflict points where vehicles and pedestrians and bicyclists interact. So 7 curb cuts are being removed, which eliminates those potential conflict points. from a traffic operations perspective, looking at the Nonanton Road, Galen Street and Water Street intersection, that also removes some significant safety concerns relating to vehicles entering and exiting Watertown Yard in that very wide open intersection that exists there today. I mean, you've got multiple legs and driveways all converging at a single signalized intersection. And it's a very imposing environment for pedestrians and bicycles. So just by eliminating those driveways, it's a significant safety benefit. But from a traffic operations perspective, as Bob had, there's a separate signal phase that we have to have the ability of buses to enter and exit Watertown Yard. That signal phase creates very inefficient operations. It increases delays at the intersection and substantially increases queuing along Galen Street as well as on the Watertown Square side of the intersection as well. By getting rid of that additional signal phase, it allows us to add more capacity to move traffic along Galen Street, which reduces the vehicle queuing that exists there. And that queuing, we're able to process more traffic, get buses through the area into Watertown Yards more efficiently by just eliminating those driveways and improving the way that that traffic signal operates. I think I'll conclude my presentation with that. All of this, as Tim had mentioned, has been developed in consultation with the town and with the MBTA. And the town is in fact engaged an independent review consultant as well to review the findings of the analysis and work with us on the transportation improvement program. And that consultant is basically concluded with these improvements and the construction of this project, the flow of traffic along Galen Street will be improved. Pedestrian and bicycle accommodations will be significantly enhanced and in fact made much safer than what exists out there today. And that from a transit operations perspective, this is a much better scenario and operating condition for transit riders as well. So I don't know if I add any remarks to that, Bob.
That was great, Jeff. Thank you. Any questions so far? Anybody?
I have a question. This is Sheila.
Hi, Sheila.
The Water Street exit that's coming up from Nonanton Road, that's purely a right turn only, I'm assuming?
Yes, so the way that that works is that's great, Tim, thanks. So buses can enter from Galen Street by way of a right turn only.
Uh-huh.
General traffic can exit from that approach by way of a right turn only. So there are no left turns there. If you're a motorist and you're driving along Galen Street, you cannot make a right-hand turn at that intersection. You need to turn right at the traffic signal, essentially. The only vehicles that can turn from Galen Street onto that leg of Water Street are buses only.
And I'm assuming signage on Water Street will make it clear that if you're wanting to get to Galen Street to make a left turn, you have to make a left on that new access.
Yes, that's correct. And that's why at the internal intersection, Tim, of Water Street and the relocated Water Street, that's under stop sign control, and it's done that way to both control traffic, prioritize buses, but it's also so that we can install those signs so they'll be right there in front of you so that you're stopped and you've got a sign in front of you that's saying which direction you need to turn to get to where you want to ultimately arrive at.
Hi, this is Dan McKinley. Looking at northbound cyclists going along Galen Street, if they're using that shared bike bus lane, when the buses turn right onto Water Street, how are the bikes expected to join that shared use path that keeps going up to the square? Because I see two pedestrian crossings, but my understanding is that a bike would have to dismount at that point and walk the bike across during the shared use path. And I'm just curious if you could clarify that.
Yeah, so that island's going to be redesigned from what you see there, so that the intent is that if you're a bicyclist, it's going to be a wider crossing, and that the island, it's not really going to have, it doesn't have enough depth or width to have ramp up, ramp down for pedestrians. So what we'll do is it'll be an opening essentially. So bikes will have essentially a curb to buffer them from the Galen Street traffic, and will proceed straight across and up a larger ramp onto where the Watertown Yard side is. So that's still a design feature that we're working with, but you will not ramp up or ramp down on that island. And the intent is bikes will just pass right through and then up a ramp onto the shared use path.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, this is Maria. I really like this new design in terms of where the blue bikes go and how that area is working much, much better. I think you really have thought this through. A couple of ideas and comments. We were just, Dan just asked about how the bikes would handle that little triangle at Water Street. One thing to keep in mind is that in the middle of the winter, when we have snow, that has to be cleared, because otherwise it won't be effective for bicyclists, because people will be riding once the roads are clear. So if that has to, you have to think about, how do I clear that path, not for the pedestrians and for the cyclists. And I don't know if the property will have the responsibility for snow clearing on that entire piece, from that little triangle on Water Street all the way to where the property ends. So that's one thought. Secondly, if you go to the slides that shows the traffic and pedestrian and bicycle movement, there was another slide with multicolors.
Yep. There we go.
That one. This makes a lot of sense in many ways. One thing to consider is that if you're coming up Galen Street over the river toward Newton, and you're going to make that left turn, yeah, right there, that I don't know yet. We have to really think through how that's going to work, because it is one lane there. No, it's two lanes there, actually. So in order to make that left turn as a cyclist, that could be a bit harrowing. You have to get in the left-hand lane on Galen Street, and then just catch the oncoming traffic at the right moment. So I think there needs to be some thought about, if we keep people on the right-hand side of the road, okay, in order to make that left turn, how do we manage this, not just the signage, but the signaling, so that it's safe for people to do that? If you go to Europe, or, you know, and you see these kind of situations, what they will usually have is that people will make a left-hand turn from the right side of the street during the signals being, when the signals are coordinated for that, so that you're not dealing with traffic. And sometimes you're not dealing with a pedestrian flow. You have your own signal, and it's driven by the ability to pick up cyclists coming up the road, because you wouldn't want to have that happening if there aren't any cyclists. There's no need to make that left turn. So I think it'd be worthwhile to think about how you can make that happen. Secondly, once you get over the river, I see another left turn onto the bike path along the river westbound. If you notice on the left, that one there, that's another left turn. And we need to consider how people are going to come across the river and make that left turn there. The only way they can do that is by going on the west side of that river crossing. And I want to tell you that is challenging as well. Mm-hmm. So we might want to think about how to do that, because what's happening is that bikes and pedestrians are put into contention right in that strip, right coming out of that bike path right there, and then going over the river, or coming over the river to turn left onto that bike path. I think that needs to be considered. The other thing is, right at that corner of Nonantum and I think it's Mount Auburn at that corner. I think or Galen, wherever Galen starts, but right at that corner, if there's traffic coming up Mount Auburn to go over the river, when they make that right turn, that is a very wide right turn cut. So people are taking that right turn at a very fast rate of speed. Is it possible to work with the town? And I don't think it's the MBC to improve that corner right there, because it really is quite, I've seen people practically get run over, and then we've had accidents at that corner with that right turn, with people crossing to go to the bus barn now. And I'm sure in the future, they're going to be crossing right there to go pick up the buses at that triangle. So I think it's well worth looking at that corner and the problems in that corner for pedestrians in particular. I really like the idea of having the blue bikes being moved to the entrance, what's today the entrance of the bus barn. I think that's a much better location. It'll be, think about how you exit out of there with a blue bike and pedestrians, because what happens is when the buses let people out, there's a ton of people coming out at once. I mean, it doesn't last long, but there's a lot of buses that are dropping off one after the other. So you might want to really look at the bus traffic flow and how to handle the blue bikes coming out onto the sidewalk at that corner when it's heavy duty pedestrian traffic. On the island itself, where the buses will pick up, I noticed that there's 2 traffic lanes where the buses are going to pick up. I'm still not clear how that's going to work. And maybe that is one of the things you guys could talk about some more, but I'm not, somehow in my head, 2 parallel traffic bus pickup areas don't make any sense. Yeah, see how you have 2 bus only lanes?
Yeah, if it's helpful. So this outer lane, the inner lane is for the pickups only. The outer lane is only for buses that are either going to the Watertown yards or they're bypassing a bus that's picking up to continue
Okay.
along. So you're right. It is confusing, but that's what the intent is. The curbside lane is for pickups. The lane next to it is for Watertown yards or recirculating buses.
That was
Okay.
largely driven by the T as well. It's like,
Okay.
we don't,
That makes me feel better. That makes
yeah,
me.
we don't presume to, know their business all that well, but that was
Yeah, no,
really,
this makes a lot more sense, because I just couldn't see how people were going to get out to the further out lanes to do a pickup. Will there be places there for people to shelter, or will there be the standard type of shelters, or will there be something that will be pleasant to look at and inviting and much better what the T has, because the T's areas where you wait are
pretty bad. Yeah.
pretty bad.
Yeah, they've said so. That's their call. They want shelter there. I think where the 2 white pieces are right there, those are intended to be, kind of bus shelter or passenger shelter areas. I haven't seen a spec on it yet in terms of, material or, relative size.
I do know, having waited in those shelters more often than I care to think, is that they're too small.
Mm.
And I would encourage you to think about how to handle whenever we get back to normal, whatever that is, how to have capacity for more people. It's just not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And so the pickup will be there. The drop off will be on Galen Street here. Okay.
Yeah.
That-
Thank
that-
you, Maria. Those
Thank
are all good, great points, and just have to-
I want to, this is Sheila again. I want to bring up one point about bicyclists going in that left turn to the bike path. If we have good signage nobody needs to make that turn because they can make it on the California Street side of the path and take the bridge across over to the Pleasant Street side of the path. Because there's really no reason for anybody to go across the bridge and take a left onto the path on the Watertown Square side when you can take a left on the California Street side, go down just a couple hundred feet and go across the bridge.
Okay. Good point.
It just needs signage, and that's a problem across that whole area with the DCR paths.
A lot of signs there.
Okay.
I have a quick question. This is Jesse on the Bike Ped Committee, and I also want to echo Maria that I really appreciate all the work that's gone into this, and I really like the design. I was just wondering though if there's been any discussions with Farinas about how they'll use or how their parking in front of their building will kind of integrate into the new stoplights there at that intersection.
Yeah, I've been in touch with Paula and Anthony pretty regularly, and it wasn't our call necessarily to try to take parking away from them or across the street. We certainly feel the pain there and are empathetic to that situation. So we do want to. It looks like in the garage, we're going to do something that would be put aside. Now you come right in the garage, and there'd be a number of spaces to be determined that would be earmarked or allocated for the retail uses, not only Farina's, but also I think it's New Ginza, the restaurant, and anybody else, frankly, in that directly across the street that may have been or will be impacted. I think there were a total, Jesse, so I think there were a total from our property edge, if you will, on Galen Street, coming down towards the square. I believe it's about 600 feet from the start of our property line. And in that 600 feet, I believe there were 10 spaces, only 10 spaces. And really that's attributable because to the fact that there are all those curb cuts. So you really couldn't get much parking in there. But I do agree, directly across from Farina's, there are probably 3 to 4 spaces. And so I think what we want to do, and we're looking into it now, and I've talked to Paula and Anthony on this, would be to make spaces available in the garage that are set aside, a certain number. We intend to use them as well, for the bike room and for the, I buy stuff there, I've been going there since before this. So I frequent there, and I think we want them to do the bike room. We want to, have them stock up, the tubes and things that we'll need in the bike room, regular everyday maintenance, and probably a bike, bike rack to do repairs on. And so we, feel their, pain if you want to do something for them.
That's good to hear. I'm also curious too, because I know that they have parking right in front of their building, kind of where that white area indents there. And it's hard enough to see cars getting in and out of there as it is now. But if there was a stop, when the stoplight goes in, which I think is going to be great, especially for pedestrians and bikes, but I worry that cars would end up on the sidewalk as pedestrians are also trying to navigate the sidewalk, as cars are trying to get out or get in or something like that. I don't know. Was there any discussion about ending the practice of them having parking in front of the building? Or
not from our point of view. I don't know.
I wouldn't think they'd want to do that, but
because they have not just bicycle repair, but they also do snow blowers and things like that.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of drop off and pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe down the road as things progress after this is all finished, it'll be worth kind of just taking a look at that and seeing how it flows, and if like there needs to be some paint on the street to just indicate that cars can come out of there on a special light, or on on a
Hey,
green or,
We
you know,
hear you
from
loud
Aldrich or
and
something.
clear. I think Tim, our architect, had a great idea where he was looking at, you know, a Mass Ave Arlington stretch where it was, you know, it was bus lane and it was a bike, you know, sharrows and during off-peak hours that allowed some parking. And we kind of raised that issue. Hey, could we do that? But the T was like, nah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
we can't have that. No, because it's always
No.
peak and Galen Street's always busy. And
yeah.
okay, but we were looking to find ways really to, you know, lessen it for the Farinas.
Is it possible that you were talking about some parking spaces in the garage? That could be, one of those spaces could be a drop-off area for people who are dropping off their snow blowers or mowers or something. Because I'll tell you, having dropped stuff off, forget about a snow blower, but having dropped off a mower in front of their building, that's just not fun. So maybe there's a way that they could have a little drop-off area in the garage, the equivalent of one parking space or something like that. And it would be much more pleasant and safe, to be honest.
Yeah, we're trying to set aside an area. We're looking at, you know, parking controls that we could do. And it's, you know, work in progress, but everybody on the team is, you know, acutely aware of wanting to do something, and we think we can, setting aside for some number of to be determined spaces, like right as you come in the garage, not, you know, up on the, or whatever, on the lower level and you're driving around. No, it'd be right as you come in and kind of allocate those to, you know, commercial uses or retail uses across the street. So yeah, we're, you know, really all over that.
Can
I
we talk
just-
a little bit the lighting? I'm sorry, Dan. Can we talk a little bit about the lighting in the triangle as well? And also in the lovely green area to the south of the building, you know, that meandering area?
Did you say lighting?
Yes, please, lighting.
Yeah.
It was more of a safety area, thinking from a safety perspective and also from a way of attracting people to the neighborhood.
Tim, we don't have our landscape architect here. I know that that's, you know, in progress, but anything you can add, Tim, in terms of the lighting through the meandering park, I'll call it?
Sure. So we're pretty early. We're just getting into lighting now. And actually, our landscape architect did meet with a lighting consultant. We're working with Ground Landscape Architects, who's designing both of these spaces and Lamb Partners is our lighting consultant. And we've done a number of public spaces around Greater Boston. A lot of the lighting is going to be the town streetlights. We'll be providing new streetlights all the way along the Galen Street frontage on both sides of the neighborhood park and then along Water Street as well. And so we're working with the town to identify their preference for a fixture there, and then the appropriate spacing to provide comfortable sidewalks. The thought, or at least the preliminary thoughts for the sloping park is to provide pole lights along the southern edge, along a path, and bollard lights throughout these other paths. There's also a series of linear benches that are integrated into the landscape, both along the paths than in the landscape itself, which and the thought is what we're looking at is integrating linear lighting fixtures into those benches, which provide a really soft, diffuse light that illuminates the walking surface, but doesn't create a lot of light spill, a lot of light trespass. Within the neighborhood park, and this is, again, we are just starting to look at this now, but the thought is similar, a combination of street lights, pole lights around the perimeter, and lights that are integrated into the linear benches.
One thing I
Yeah, we
wanted
want it to be, you know, well lighted and safe and secure, and want people to feel comfortable in there. And, you know, but at the same time, you know, it's a balancing act in terms of the neighborhood, that you don't want the light so bright as to, kind of spill over into their space, if you will. And so we want to be really aware of that, sensitive to that, that we want to fit into the neighborhood and not look like, glow in the night building and park.
One thing I wanted to ask was for northbound private vehicles on Galen Street, turning right onto New Watertown Street, or sorry, New Water Street there. Are they going to be able to enter the bus lane to make that right-hand turn, or is the bus lane going to be phase separated from, normal traffic?
So general traffic at the signalized intersection, general traffic cannot make a right-hand turn. General traffic can only turn left. If you want to turn right, you have to go down the other Water Street leg to Galen Street.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody from the Disabilities Commission have any particular questions or concerns?
This is Kim Charlson, and I just wanted to ask about a couple ADA issues related to the parkway, the meandering path that goes through the green space, and that it has interspersed stairs. And the recommendation that you consider putting some kind of a detectable warning that I don't think, and John can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not 100% sure that it's an ADA requirement, but in that environment, I think it's a really good idea to put some kind of a warning at the top of those stairs, because if someone who's visually impaired is walking through that area, they may not be aware that there's also stairs. They might just think they're on a path and not be prepared for the fact that there's stairs interspersed into that walkway. And then also making sure that all the curb cuts, you described the curb cuts at the intersection where there's a full stop when the light signals. And are those corner curb cuts, or what I call apex? I don't know if that's the correct terminology, or are they within the crosswalk curb cuts at the lighted intersections that you're talking about?
So where the new traffic signals being installed, we have wheelchair ramp, ADA compliant wheelchair ramps that will exist within the crosswalk area. So they will convey a pedestrian directly
Straight across
into the crosswalk.
That's a good thing. Okay, thank you. I'm happy to hear that.
And just if we could go back to the sloping park just for a second. So if you stay on the path, there aren't any stairs. You can take the path from top to bottom without
Right.
traversing. Yeah, okay.
But the stairs do adjoin off if you wanted to
Okay.
do that, correct?
Yes, yeah, I just
Right, so
want to make
yeah,
sure.
blind people don't always walk straight, so if they're meandering, they might meander a little farther than they should sometimes.
Okay.
So I just think it
spot.
might be a safety or some kind of a texture at the top of the stairs that could alert someone, because you don't really tend to fall upstairs, you fall downstairs. So that's why some kind of texture at the top of the stairs that could alert someone is I think an important feature, and it doesn't have to be, a major expense or anything like that.
No, it's a great point. And
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great comment. I think as we get into the more detailed design of these, that's something we can look at, whether it is a detectable warning strip or change in materiality or something else to signal a difference between the walking path and the stepping path.
And approaching the stairs, I think it would just be a good safety feature.
Great
Yeah,
point.
and just another point on just going back to the earlier comment about lighting, there will be a higher level of illumination at all the stairs and on all the stair walking surfaces.
John, do you have any comments?
Yes, I had a question, which was, going down the new Water Street, where the entrance to the building is that whole slope accessible in terms of the 5% kind of rate?
Yeah, so this whole slope will be less than 5% from Water Street. And to accomplish that, we're actually raising the elevation of this intersection from its current, I think about 2.5 feet from the current elevation of Water Street. That's to provide an accessible slope along this full length. So less than 5%. And then we're flattening out here. So this is a drop off in front of the building. The first spot here will be the accessible drop-off spot. So it will be a less than 2% cross slope here. And then we're flattening out at this intersection as well. It's a complicated grading situation here.
Well, the other question I have, not a question really, but Kim has picked up on it. The meandering walk, which I assume is, we're talking just about the maze kind of situation on the sloping area. It's not a maze, but you know, it's a snaky kind of serpentine way down. I think just to reiterate what Kim said, because it's going to be very difficult for a person with limited visual capacity to, unless they know it ahead of time, it's not going to be the easiest thing to maneuver. So again, the importance of doing something at the top of the ramps. I don't think there need to be gates, which is a typical device at Perkins at the top of the stairs in the buildings there. But again, it's not a straightforward situation. So if a person who was blind was unaccompanied, this, you know, it could be a little tricky. But I think it's a lovely environment, so I'm sure they'd feel it was worth the travel.
I think the point about the detectable strips and the change in materiality, that's all well taken. And as we dig down further, that's great input that I, frankly, was ignorant of. So thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Lisa. Is it okay if I have some questions? I raised my hand, but I'm not sure who's monitoring.
Lisa, you're always welcome.
So I'm gonna. So yeah, picking up on that point, I appreciate Kim and John mentioning that because it is somewhat a problem on the path on Arsenal Street where there are places where it just kind of drops off and there's no warning, as well as even though there are some detectable strips near garage entrance or some of the intersections there, some of them, the pavement might change, but there's really no contrast in any colors. So they might just have a pavement change and no detectable strip. And so it's really not clear that you're entering an active garage or shared path with bikes and pedestrians and delivery trucks and all that. So that added sensitivity is definitely welcome. I wonder, I really welcome this, as Maria and you all pointed out, this little added green space and trying to get bikes, I forget which slide it is, but closer up to the bridge between this, I think of it as an island, I guess you're calling it a neighborhood park, and the Galen Street Bridge, right, with the bus yard. But I'm sure you studied it. Can you explain, do we have to have that crossing that open there? You said that the MBTA, they own Water Street there as well, because it just reminds me a little bit of Watertown Square, where bikes and pedestrians, you come over, you got Nonanum Road, you've got the yard, and then you'll have the new Water Street with Aldrich Road, and then you're home free. Like you said, you're eliminating all those curb cuts the rest of the way up Galen Street. So I don't know if someone could talk to, if that's, I understand the circulation they've run out as far as the pickup, but since there is the MBTA there's so much space there with the yard itself and the parking. Is there any thought of more modification or eliminating that intersection? That's where I think it's right turn only and just using the new Water Street and Aldrich Road and not even having that there.
They were, as much as they wanted, to improve the turn radius there, they're reluctant to do, and maybe I'm speaking a little bit out of turn, they're reluctant to do anything on their own land, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It takes away their potential developability, or, they're not making money collecting fares. So it really goes to underall is the land. And so what is their biggest assets? Their real estate. And so to the extent they can minimize anything done on their real estate, it maximizes their, bondability or value of their holdings. So this really had a lot of parties involved in it, not only our traffic people, but their bus operations people, their engineering people, their design consultants, the town, and us. In our park, you call it an island now, it kind of, our park went from a park to a little bit of an island. But it seemed to be the only thing that would work for the T and for the town, and that could meet the circulation requirements, the bus turning radius. And we've been dealing with them for months and months and months, and finally came up with a concept that the town seemed to like, that the T said, yes, we can go with this concept. And we kind of said, oh, okay, we've lost another X amount of square footage off our park, but it seems to solve, is it perfect? No, but it seemed to solve, most of the ills. Can we make it perfect? I don't think so. And this was something that we tried. I mean, we had a lot of different iterations in front of them, and no, this doesn't work. No, this doesn't work. And finally, this seemed to work, and it seemed to make sense. From the transportation point of view, the Gideon and Steve Magoon and Laura and the T, and it's been a collaborative process. So I don't know whether I'm answering your question to your satisfaction, but I'm kind of giving you some color around the situation.
No, I really appreciate that. It's
Lisa,
yeah, it's good to know. Pardon?
and I just wanted to talk
Sure.
to Bob's point. I want to confirm what he's saying. From our perspective, the T really sees this opportunity to improve access to the bus yard, and the Boston Development Group was extremely accommodating and flexible to their needs, and to the detriment of this little piece of open space at the corner there. And it was a very collaborative process, but we really appreciated their flexibility. And I think the T is happy, and it will be better to get in and out of the yard there.
Yeah, and I do think they also made a representation, Lisa, that one of the things they try to do is to not only, close that off, but to give an easement, whether it's to the town, of 5,500 square feet or so, to continue that a little bit more. That's probably, not to scale, and it's not, it can look a lot better than that. In other words, some
Yeah.
nice trees and bushes, and, an extension of the green area, if you will, even if it's only trick the eye a little bit,
So it creates the opportunity to have that connectivity between the river and the neighborhood park and the building.
Yeah. So I understand what you're saying, and it is better than what's there now. It's just disappointing, honestly. I don't know if you can compare. Remind me about the size. How that compares to, say, the Delta in Watertown Square, or to relate it. I just am a little concerned that I know you're still working some on the programming of that space, but to really feel like a neighborhood park, I think a lot of it's going to depend on the programming and have it feel like a destination and not just kind of a green space that you walk by on the way to, work, because there's not really community space or retail space in the project or to the bus stop. I mean, green space is always welcome, but, and I know you only have so much you know,
Well,
I didn't realize that whole Water Street intersection was controlled by MBTA, but
Yeah.
you know, so anyway, so if you can just, do you have a comparison on the size?
Yeah, Tim, what are
Know
we
the
talking
size of
about?
Watertown Square offhand. It's pretty comparable in size between the two. This is about 17,500 square feet to the curbs. But it's something we've been talking a lot about as a design team too. How do we make this feel like, even with the smaller size, still a comfortable space to be in? Perhaps it isn't the large neighborhood park that it used to be, but it still can feel like a comfortable space to be in, either for passengers that are going between drop off and pick off, waiting for the bus. Maybe they don't wait on a nice day in the bus shelters, they wait in the space itself, for people coming out of the building, and for the neighborhood as well. One of the things we've talked about is the difference between Watertown Square is Watertown Square is very open on the edges. It has the trees in the center, the monument in the center of it.
Right.
And I think because those edges are really open to the surrounding roads, it's less comfortable of a place to be. We're trying to take the opposite approach here. So having our trees along the edges, trying to buffer those edges from the surrounding roads and opening up the middle of the site. One other thing I should mention too, and we could go into this in more detail, perhaps another time. But we're trying to use the topography of the site to make this space feel comfortable too. So where you see the number 2 here,
Yes.
so this portion of the lawn is lower than Galen Street, than Water Street here. I think those few feet of difference will really help make this feel like a space that's separate from the surrounding trees, and also help acoustically too. So you're not.
Yeah, that's another thing I was gonna ask about. I know that you have a aerial as well from the Watertown Square looking over. I'm hoping in the future, maybe in some more meetings, if you could show more of a pedestrian view from the square looking, and then even, you know, from this new in Aldrich or from the neighborhood kind of pedestrian level, to get a sense of that grade and the feeling that might evoke. I think people would really appreciate that. The other question, when you guys keep talking about the indoor bike room, is that actually going to be open to the public, or is that, I thought it was for employees. Is that?
It is for employees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a secure bike room for the employees with
Yeah, okay.
showers, lockers, and probably a bike stand and a vending machine with, you know, bike parts and maintenance items, but for the tenants. And the blue bike, as
Okay.
you mentioned, seems like the thought now is maybe it more appropriately belongs where we talked about, down where the T closed off there. Egress. Yeah.
And I think just two others. One is, I'm not sure if I understood correctly when Sheila was describing the suggestion of having more signage, which I agree about that. Although I would think that people would still need to or want to take a left coming down Galen into the square to get towards, you know, near the Delta, there's the office park there, and you have all the bike racks, rather than going up to the bridge and crossing over. So I'm not sure if I understood that point or not, but I agree with everybody that, you know, Watertown Street, that this whole area has a lot to think about in improving for pedestrians and bikes, and depending on if you're turning or you're going straight. So I appreciate all that. I guess my last thought right now is, again, on the park, which I guess open to the public, but more private with the meandering path. I don't know if there's could be any thought. Do we have areas where perhaps interspersed you may also have some arms or some kind of upper body help? So it's not just a open, I'm sorry, what, you know, not seat walls, but linear benches. I don't know if there's any concern that the turning into a skate park or not of skateboards coming on top, but I know it always looks beautiful, and I think, you know, it wasn't really till I've had being on the Commission on Disability and then family members myself who, you know, just how difficult that is, or wanting to be with more able-bodied people, but you feel like you're together, not just, you know, having separate facilities. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so it's 8:43. I think I'd like to wrap up the presentation, if that's okay with everybody.
Not with us.
Okay.
No, I don't mean to be defensive at all. I certainly, you know, will take any questions with, you know, not a problem, but we're good. If everyone feels like they've, you know, it was a good presentation and they got some questions answered, then we're pleased.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was a great presentation, very informative. I think people are excited.
Thank you.
You know, Galen Street needs to be transformed. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Thank you.
These are very helpful for us too, to get that input about, especially about the meandering park. That if I got nothing else tonight, I got that frankly, I didn't think about that, and it makes great sense. And so we get the benefit of this as well. So thank you all for listening and for your thoughtful questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your time.
Welcome. Signing out.
Night.
So,
Good
under the
night.
more mundane agenda items. So the next
Yeah.
agenda item was going to be a discussion on, I think, what was being termed as culture change, having to do with kind of opening the community up to more of a bicycle pedestrian experience specific to getting flu shots, those kinds of things. But Amy was going to talk to that, but unfortunately she's not able to make it tonight. I think she's not feeling well. So moving on to the next agenda item is the snow removal ordinance. There's an update on that. And Bob, I'm going to rush through this, so I hope you don't mind. But after a lot of consultation, it was kind of suggested that the snow removal ordinance is something, it's a recommendation that comes out of the bike pedestrian master plan. So it makes sense to get that passed by the town council and then push forward on the snow removal ordinance. And then there was also some input as to, you know, we want to phase the snow ordinance in, and initially it was thought that the phasing in could be accomplished by, introducing different ordinances. But now there's discussion around or implementing kind of a phasing approach through enforcement. So I think the idea is to kind of get the ordinance to committee and then work it out there. That's an update on snow removal ordinance. Any questions on that? Any discussion? Okay.
Just a quick question. Andy, have you communicated with Mark at all that the bike ped is going in this direction yet?
I have not. Is that something that you want me to follow up with him on?
Or I could, either way.
All right. Well, you initiated the communication. It might seem a little more consistent if it comes from you.
Okay, I'll do.
We can work together on that if you want to go that way.
Basically, I think I'll see if I can do it in a phone call, just to give him an update, or I'll write him a short email.
Okay.
All right. And if I do that, I'll copy you. All right.
All right. Thank you,
Thanks.
Bob. All right.
I have just one thing to say, which is a thought that just occurred to me on the subject of combining snow removal and culture change, that we can think about what can we do this winter to get the word out and to make people think different about clearing their sidewalk, and just, I don't know, get the word out through social media and other. It's always hard to know what the best way to get word out is, but to really change the way people think about their sidewalks and not just shovel their driveways and leave their sidewalks full of snow.
Well, that's a great idea, Laura. And, you know, to go one step further, could we engage the new information officer on that as well? Or is that not his purview?
He helped me with the bike, the blue bike announcement about free bikes on election day. He just posted it in a couple places. I mean, I don't think that's his primary function, but he, you know, he can help us get the word out.
Okay. All right. So we'll catch up with Amy on that. That's a good idea. All right. Greenhouse. So again, Amy was going to talk to that, and Hannah's not here. There's two parts to that. One is we submitted a request to Mark for the town council to consider a resolution to support. Well, there's three parts to it. To the resolution request: express gratitude for the previous road closure. Ask DCR to evaluate traffic data in the area and determine if a longer term or weekend closure is feasible. And then ask DCR to close the road on weekends next spring and summer. So Mark responded that he would put it on an agenda. So it's not. So it might be on the next town council meeting agenda. We'll find out.
He did announce at the last town council meeting that he was expecting it to be in the November 10th meeting.
Okay. Wow. All right. November 10th. All right. Thank you, Lisa. Good to know. The other part to Greenough is I know that Amy and Hannah were hoping to have the resolution in hand because they wanted to approach, I guess DCR has these monthly, I want to call them steering committee meetings. And they wanted to, I guess, engage with them at one of those meetings. So they could tell you more about that. So that's the update on Greenough. Development projects.
Just there isn't much new. There is yet another proposal for a lab building on Elm Street. It's 23 Elm Street, but I can't remember exactly where it is on Elm Street. I don't think it's right on the corner, but yeah, they just keep on coming. It's unbelievable. So this is a smaller one certainly compared to the Tufts Health Plan building or the Mount Auburn Club, but there will be a developers conference probably before the end of the year, I would say. And I think that who volunteered to do that in lieu of since Jesse left? Was that Sheila? No, Sheila did wayfinding.
And that was Maria.
It was Maria. Okay. I will let you know, Maria, as soon as I hear anything.
Okay. Laura, the more time you can give me in terms of advance warning is helpful. I have a new job and it looks like it's going to be fairly busy.
Okay.
So it'll be good to have a little more warning.
Got it.
All right. Next item is kind of an update on bike lanes on Arlington Street. I know there was a bit of a back and forth on that. We responded by sending a letter of support to DPW, a letter of support for bike lanes. We did send a letter to Councilor Canellis, just kind of stating our support for bike lanes. I think we wanted to sort of also sort of clarify that the Arlington Street initiative really came out of Complete Streets and not really the bike ped plan, I think, as had been suggested. But it's a Complete Streets project. I think there's a significant commitment behind it. My understanding is with Complete Streets, we can't go back for more funding until we've completed the projects that we've already been funded for. So I think there's a strong motivation to kind of see that through. That's Arlington. There's a similar initiative going on in Waverly. DPW is preparing to resurface, sort of re-engineer Upper Waverly before it gets to Belmont. And there were a couple options, and for us, the preferred option was have a dedicated bike lane on the uphill side of Waverly. What happens now is Matt requested comments from everybody on the Complete Streets Working Group, which in our group includes Laura, myself, and Ethan. And so we've submitted comments, and there is going to be a meeting that, sorry, I should have written this down. There's going to be a working group meeting.
I think it's next Friday.
Okay, next Friday at
10 maybe? It's in the morning. I don't remember the time.
10 o'clock. Very, very good, Laura. So Ethan, are you going to be, you think you'll be able to make it to the meeting next Friday at 10?
You're on mute.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Ethan, you're on mute. There you go.
I'm now off mute, right?
Yes.
I thought you could hit spacebar and get off mute. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to do that. Yes, I will be at the meeting at 10 o'clock next Friday, the 13th.
All right.
It is the 13th.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Great. Thanks, Ethan. All right. So that's Waverly. So now we're at new business. Is there any new business to discuss? Anything?
Andy, you jumped over the bike ped plan update, and I wondered, did you mean to put that at the end?
No, you know what? I had sort of I had taken the agenda and written a script, and I must have forgotten to transpose it. So let me back on it. I never said new business.
I should bring that up under business.
I never said new business. You didn't hear that. So
it's actually pretty old business at this point. Last time, you might remember, we talked about the public meeting. We have to, we're going to have a public meeting before it goes to the council for final approval. So what we've decided to do is to have that as a joint meeting of the Economic Development and Planning Committee and Public Works Committee. And as a result, I didn't have a lot of control over the schedule, and it got scheduled for December 7th, which is our regular monthly meeting. So we are going to have to reschedule our December meeting. And I hope everyone can come to that meeting. It will be a presentation by the consultant and followed by public comments. And it'll be on Zoom, unfortunately.
okay. All right. Yeah.
Just a quick note. I read the letter that you sent. I thought that was excellent. Really well done.
On Waverly, or which
Yeah.
one?
The one to Angie.
Okay.
That was really good. I haven't had a chance to read the one on Waverly. I glanced at it, but I have seen construction on Waverly this last week or two.
Yeah, I saw that too.
So are we going to have a meeting with DPW on this, on Waverly?
Ethan and Andy.
Yeah. So Laura, help me on this because I thought you might have mentioned that you kind of refreshed yourself on Complete Streets, but so it's a Complete Streets process. So there's going to be that Complete Streets working group review on Friday, and I believe that's public. I mean, that should be public, shouldn't it, Laura? No, it's not.
I don't know. I'd have to find out. It's not my meeting to make that decision. I don't know if that's usually public or not.
All right, and I don't want to. I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but as far as I know, that's the only deliberation that I'm aware of.
I mean, it is conceivable that at the end of that meeting, we would say there needs to be some public.
Okay.
process, but I don't think there automatically will be.
Okay. Does that answer the question, Maria?
Sort of, but it would seem to me that we need to have some discussion and review with this with DPW, because what they're proposing now is, well, limited would be a kind word, and unacceptable is closer to the truth, really. How could we have one of our major north-south arterials, one of the few that does not have a hill and has a reasonable amount of traffic, not have, complete streets.
Well, my first request would be, please read the comments that we submitted. And I guess Laura, if Maria, well, yeah, I guess read those comments and then maybe reach out to us afterwards.
It occurs to me that we didn't give them the plan. So maybe I'll send the plan to everybody, the 2 plans.
Okay,
That would be helpful, probably.
the 2 options. Okay, Yeah.
Okay, I have not seen that.
Okay.
okay, all right, that makes sense then. All right, sorry, Maria.
No, that's okay.
Should have sent that out. All right, so we'll send you that out and maybe you can review the comments and reach back to us.
Yep. I'll get
Okay,
back to you.
all right, thank you. Now new business, Laura?
Well, would it be appropriate to pick a new night for the meeting?
Well, that was after the new business, but yeah,
Or
okay.
is that a final item? I don't know how you want to deal with that.
All right, let's do that. So December 7th is the master plan review.
Right.
So
because that's relatively late for the first Monday, we could do it the previous week. Like I'm looking at the town calendar now. There's nothing on Tuesday the 1st. And on the 3rd is a housing partnership meeting. We could probably double up with them. I think they usually meet early. Those
Okay.
would be 2 suggestions, or we could do it after, but not Tuesday the 8th. That's a council meeting.
well, I'm comfortable with the first week of December. How does everybody feel about that? How does everybody feel about that week? Is that week okay with everybody?
Yeah, the 7th.
Okay.
No, you don't mean the 7th. You mean like Tuesday the 1st, right?
Right.
Yes, the 7th is the bike ped plan.
Oh, you mean the presentation?
That would have been our meeting.
I'm so sorry. I think I'm confused.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Do you have a calendar?
I'm looking at it. I know our meeting is on the 7th, and I thought we were talking about our meeting, but obviously not.
We are talking about changing the night of our meeting.
We are talking about our meeting.
Yes, in order to, because of the conflict.
Oh, okay, because of the public presentation. I get it. Sorry.
Okay.
So sorry. And so what are our alternatives?
I think really almost anything. I mean, there are other meetings, but so Tuesday, December 1st, there's no other meetings on the town calendar right now.
Just to let you know, at 6 o'clock is the Charter Review Commission. It's the first and third Tuesdays. It probably didn't get posted yet.
Did not get posted. Okay.
And what time is that?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, right?
Why don't we meet on the 8th?
That's town council.
Oh,
That's probably the only
What about Thursday?
non-starter. Thursday the 3rd or Thursday the 10th?
Thursday the 10th.
That could work.
yeah, that could work.
Same way we did it
Is that good for everybody?
Yep, works for me.
on the 10th.
Yeah.
At 7:30, right?
I may or may not be able to make that. I'm not sure yet. I'm coming back from a vacation on the 4th. Oh, wait, on the 10th, I mean, I'm sorry.
Nice try.
I'm leaving on the 4th.
Wow.
But
I'm not,
I think I'll be back by that time, but I'm not sure yet. So I don't want to hold up the schedule. But.
I would like you to participate in this discussion about culture changes. I think you probably have some good ideas about getting the word out.
Absolutely.
So if you can't attend, maybe we'll have us talk a little conversation before or after.
Okay.
Well, we can make another time. Is that?
But it sounds like you're away for a couple days. When are you away?
I'm away the 4th through the, actually through the Friday to Friday.
Oops, so
Okay,
you'll be
so you
gone
booked
then.
Yeah.
a time then.
Sorry.
So,
Yeah, 4th through 11th. So I'll try to make it on the 7th. I think I'll be able to tune in. And so I may be able to tune, I don't know about Thursday.
that's your
I think
last.
I'll be traveling that day on the 10th, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Would it help if we made it on the 9th?
possibly.
Is that possible, Laura? Could we do it on the 9th?
Well, the 9th is planning board, but that's probably on a different channel. I don't know. I'd have to check. I mean, I can do it on the 9th, but there's council on aging and planning board. So the problem is the cable channels. I think it might only be 2 choices for channels. So that would put us, I would have to check. I would have to check on that.
And
What's
what
the
about
other
Thursday,
channel?
the 3rd, Jesse? Would that be because it's the night before you're leaving? Would that be bad?
No, that would work for me.
Thursday, the 3rd?
Yep.
I think that probably works for the scheduling better.
Oh, let's do it then, if that works for everybody else.
Does anybody have a problem with the 3rd?
Double check my.
Okay, let's try for the 3rd then, if Jesse thinks he can do it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, because Housing Partnership, which is the other thing on the town calendar, I think they meet at 6. So that shouldn't be a problem to get. We'll just hop right onto their meeting at 7:30.
Perfect.
All right, very good, everyone.
I was just wondering if we should invite the communications person to come to one of our meetings. You talked about maybe his helping us with, but
He's
also
not
it might be
really
nice.
the communications person. He's the chief information officer. He's the tech.
Right, the text person. But
Right.
we'd all like to meet him, no? No, you don't think that's good?
I'm not sure it's in his.
Okay.
All right, so last item, is there any other business for the committee? Any comments, any topics?
To unmute myself.
Hi,
I have
Susan.
a couple of things I wanted to say. One is I walked on the path between the library and Church Street today, Laura. It's a big improvement over the garbage that was there before.
You're
So,
talking about behind
you.
the, where are you talking about? Behind the police station area? Or?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
I know,
Yeah,
that's
so-
the biggest difference so far.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. So thank you. The other thing I just wanted to mention is, the high school site planning is moving along, and lots of discussion, or some discussion at least, about parking and traffic and so forth. So at some point, this committee may want to just be in touch with it, because it will be generating a lot of comment from really all sectors, people who will drive and bike and walk and so forth. The plan now is to have it pretty much on both sides of Common Street, and it affects the senior center will move, and so that's another consideration. Bob and I are will be involved in some of those discussions as time goes on.
Yeah, so for the committee's part, we've actually, in collaboration with WFCC, we've actually written a letter to the school building committee requesting direct engagement with them.
Okay.
So yeah, and it's exciting though.
But I would also say, if you are aware of an upcoming discussion where the topic is traffic or transportation, to let us know. Because I think it's hard, because nobody wants to invest in going to every meeting, but you gotta be there sometimes to participate in the.
Watertown faces climate change goes to all of those meetings. So we should know when they're happening.
Who? Who goes to them, Janet, do you know?
Pat Rathborn, Ellen Susus, and Jolly Hager, and those are the three that have been really very, they've worked very hard.
What was the first person? I didn't catch the first name. The first person you said was? What?
Rathborn. Sorry.
Rathborn. Okay. Thank you.
I can send you their emails if you want.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, why don't I do that?
Can I just make a comment about the high school project?
Sure.
I would encourage everybody to look at the plan so far and to participate when you can. And to Laura's point, it's helpful to be at the meetings, but they don't. I think the traffic and transportation is kind of coming later. And for example, I know there's been interest about potentially Marshall Street, as a bike lane, or a big debate now is entrances on Columbia and Spring Street or not, and the use of common. So I would encourage all of you to look at that, because the design is going to really affect the pedestrian and bike circulation, and not just think in terms of transportation.
So that is our main concern, is that the access for bikes and pedestrians is equal to or
And
greater than that for cars.
Yeah, I'm getting more complaints, just you may already know, but I was surprised even this summer with a pandemic. There's such a cut through on Russell and Broadway, just because people want to avoid the Common Street light at Mount Auburn. I was really surprised. And so between what happens with the senior center or not, and where the entrances are and the parking lot, and just the circulation. So I know there's a lot to think about it, but I really appreciate all your expertise, and you guys have really been more and more active as a committee. So, I welcome I'm sure everybody welcomes your input.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. The high school thing is moving fast. It's sometimes it feels like it's hard to stay ahead of it. But it's all good, right?
Doesn't something have to be done before the end of the year, or we won't get the money?
Well, right. We even with the pandemic, the state MSBA, they have not changed their calendar. Everyone thought things would be a little more delayed, but now we actually have a December deadline to submit preferred schematic. So yeah, so here it is, November, and I think there's supposed to be one more meeting for the community. So if you can, I don't think a lot of people still are on the getting emails. I've asked how many are getting the emails, and for the school committee, our hope is that they get more robust in reaching out. I know it's hard with the pandemic, but yeah, in some ways it's fast, even though there's still a lot to decide. But the design really, as far as the massing and entrances and circulation and all that, is really coming around now, and they've narrowed it down to a few favorite options. So
Yeah.
Mark Sedaris is chair of that.
Well, it sounds like last night's meeting went pretty well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it went well. They presented they're doing massing right now, which is the big discussion. But sort of a new plan. You can go to the watertown.k12.mass.us building for the future. And they have a whole schedule of when the meetings are going to be, and also the presentations and the agendas for the meetings that happen. So the meeting on the 4th, the presentation there that you can find is, go through it fairly quickly. It's mostly visual to get a feel for what the different street views would be, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really quite worth taking a look at.
Yep. Well, thanks, Bob. Any other discussions before we adjourn? Thoughts, comments? All right. All those in favor of adjournment? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in a few weeks.
I always forget.
Thank you. Stay healthy.
Thanks.
Good night,
Yeah.
everyone.
Good night.
Fun.